as is probably not a surprise, this is being done from home. So, and that also means there is kids most likely in the background. So if you hear any kids screaming, it's not, I just want to emphasize, it's not mistreatment, it's a diaper change. So yeah, and also the slides have been put together quite fast, probably a bit faster than I'm usually comfortable with. So just in case you see typos, that's my excuse. And those that have ever read an email from me will know that there is in general many typos. Great, okay, cool. Okay, I think we'll just start now. Great. So yeah, before we welcome and happy to see so many have actually shown up. And so before we start, I would like to introduce Anders and Linnea. So Anders is from the Danish MS Society or Scleroseforeningen, and is behind many of the sports events they organize. And I'm really happy to have him, both as they have had a few virtual events, but also just because he knows a lot about event organizing and engagement and so on. Then we also have Linnea from Action Aid in Sweden. I'm also really happy to have her, especially as she was highly involved in the Strong Women Challenge last year, which is basically a poster child for a virtual event. So I'm really happy to be able to bring that experience in also. So I'll mute them until I'll bring them in along to both give their input on their events and also just have them answering various questions as we go along. But besides that, I'll be sort of like doing the main part of the webinar, and they will just jump in when relevant. Great. Okay, so I'll just mute you and stop video and stop video. Yeah, great. Okay, great. In other words, now it's just me. Great. Okay. And as mentioned before, you can ask questions during the webinar, so do please do that. And of course, also in the end. Great. So before we get started, I would like to ask you a few questions. And that's basically just to sort of like get a quick understanding of where you are and what your experience are. So we might be able to just adjust some of the content as we go along. So I'll just start with just asking what your current focus on peer-to-peer fundraising in general, not just virtual event, but any peer-to-peer fundraising is. So I'll just put out a quick question for you there and just put in your vote, so to say. And do you go vote now? Great, yes. Perfect. And I'll just share the result later so we can sort of like see where we are. And it's definitely a very broad audience here in terms of focus. I like that. Great. That last one. Perfect. I'm just gonna end this one now and just share the results so you can all see it. Great. So this is how it looks now. So quite broad, but seems more in the group of not so active. Hopefully that might change. But yeah. So and the next question, which is even quicker, and that's basically just: have you ever heard about virtual events before? Or is this perfect? Great. Perfect. So that was quick. That's good. Not completely from no background. Perfect. Great. Oh yeah, and there's the result. Forgot to share. Perfect, thank you. Okay, so I hope we can cover a lot of ground today, but we also won't get through everything. So I really hope we get through basics like definition, and I'll give a few examples of events, talk about benefits and downsides to virtual events. Then we will go through what is probably the first task anyone who wants to start a virtual event will start with. That's coming up with a concept, communication, and start to plan for recruitment of fundraisers, and also setting up the tech setup for signing up. But what we won't cover today is engaging participants throughout the event, and it's a shame because it's a really important area, because it is one of those things that can make or break an event, and it's one of those things that can easily double the results if you do that well. So, but we only have an hour, so we won't go through that today. That must be for another time. Great. Okay. So, great. So first, before we go into that, I just want to make a very quick note on Better Now. I can see we have a lot of existing partners and customers among that attendees, so I won't go into too much depth on this. But basically, we only do peer-to-peer fundraising. Almost, that's all we do. We started out back basically because, so as this image shows, we really come from this physical sports event background, where we started out because one of our founders were doing the London Marathon and thought, this is amazing. We really want to take this culture of fundraising and giving and bring it to Scandinavia and Spain, the rest of Europe. And that's where we come from. And of course, it's not only sports fundraising today. There's a lot of birthday fundraising, in-memory fundraising, do-it-yourself, whatever creative thing people can come up with. And many of you might know us from being a giving platform, and that's still something we are, but it's also something we are to way less degree today. I think it's around 80, probably 90% today of all the activity that goes through Better Now comes through one of the white label we have provided, and we just found that to be giving way better results. And another fun thing to know about us, if you don't already know that is we are already a remote company. So I said I was working from home today. That is actually what I do every single day. We don't have any office at all today. I have a colleague, I'm sitting in Aarhus in Denmark. I have a colleague in Svendborg in Denmark, and I have a colleague in Madrid. And that's sort of like where we are placed physically, but we are very much a remote organization. Yes. Okay. So let's get to the important, the content. So what is a virtual event? Well, first, it has very little to do with virtual reality, so definitely not that. So I don't hope that was what we wanted to hear about. But the last talk that seemed that that's not the case. And so I'll just move on to come up with a definition, and this is basically just me trying to put down what is the core part of a virtual event, and that is, first and foremost, there's no centrally organized physical event where everyone meets up on one day and do the thing. Participant can participate either completely on their own, alone as an individual, or self-organized in small groups. And the event must be time limited, right? And that's just basically to say it's not year-round fundraising, this thing. It's a time-limited thing. It could either be on one day, or it could be during a month or a week or whatever. And all the participants must do the same activity to some extent. There must be something that keeps this being an actual event, where people are doing something in common. And the last part, mostly for the same cause, that's basically because I have yet to see a multi-charity virtual event. I'm not ruling out it could happen, just have never seen it. And I think that's also because since you don't have the physical event, you need to have a bit more in common and do a bit more that brings these people together, and doing it for the same cause does the trick for that. Great. Okay. So next, I want to give you a few examples on this thing. And this is just what we have seen out there. So we have the typical sports event. You can bike on your own, you can run on your own, you can do CrossFit, you can do yoga, freeletics, which is basically just CrossFit without equipment. You can do a walk. Then we have the more socializing thing, and that's with inviting people for breakfast, brunch, dinner, doing arts and crafts together, whatever. We have those where you don't do something, but rather where you don't do something. So you abstain from drinking alcohol or eating chocolate or meat, or it could be, or you go vegan for a month. Then we have others that's sort of like more in the fun category, right? You could grow a mustache, you can wear a hat, you can just wear green clothes. Of course, not as much fun if you're only at home, but still. And sort of like to group this into some kind of typology, we see that this could basically be a way to group it. Basically, since there is so much sports, I thought let's pull it into having sports separate from other activities. And then we have, is it an individual or is it a group thing? And well, you could of course walk on your own, but we often see walking being a group thing. And if we sort of like go one step further, my focus today will definitely be on the individual things, mainly just because these group things won't work the next few probably months to the same extent. So less group thing, more individual thing. Great. And so if we sort of like put some more specific examples on these things, this is some of those. So we will both have a Strong Women Challenge, basically a CrossFit, freeletics challenge, definitely individual sport. Then we have in You Go Girl, that is a group walk, and we have MS Dinner, that is a group social thing. Those are the ones we will hear more about in a moment. And then we have a lot of the other ones, and that is, I'll just start with just some of these, just to give you a few examples, inspiration, everything becomes more clear when it's specific. We have the Running, Cycling Down Dementia, and that's probably one of the earliest UK virtual events by Alzheimer's Research UK. And it was, I think it was launched in 2016, and it raised over £440,000 from 4,000 participants. And basically the concept is 100 miles in a month and raise £100. So very simple event. No requirement on doing it on a specific date, or if you had to do it in one stretch, or you could divide it over a little bit each day. Both events are still ongoing and quite successful. Then we have My Marathon by the British Heart Foundation. That is also where you basically run a marathon over a month in your own way. And it's very much an event that's targeted first people who haven't done much running before. It's very sort of obvious from the communication, and also a very successful event. We have the British Red Cross with Miles for Refugees, where they try to you basically pick a distance that corresponds to a distance a refugee would walk to freedom or to safety, and then you do that, and you can either bike or swim or run that distance. Also a very successful event that raised £360,000 last year. We have the Great Whale Trail, that is a Greenpeace event, actually quite old one from 2007. That was both a fundraising event, but just as much an event to put pressure on Japanese whalers. And it was a global, another interesting aspect of that event, with participants from all over the world. We have in moving out of the sports category, we have Triathlon Go Sober for November, that is both about not drinking alcohol. And I think that those two campaigns together with the Great Whale Trail is actually good examples that these virtual events not only for fundraising, but could be used for changing behavior, and it could be used to put basically, in at least in a hopeful way, change policy. So they have a dual purpose and not just fundraising. And the same with detox is don't eat chocolate for a month, below the line, living below the poverty line for 5 days, I think it is. We have Mustache Campaign, which is very much something that reminds you about November, but it is its own campaign by the Swedish Prostate Cancer Association. And Craft Noon is, I think it's Mind in the UK, who are doing basically like social get together to do crafts and arts, and that's actually a fairly big fundraising event. Great. Okay, so I won't go into too much detail with the rest of these. And instead, I'll probably move on to, I think it's Strong Women Challenge. So I'll just leave it to Linnea to give a very quick, rundown of the concept. And I'll just unmute Linnea to let her give a short introduction to Strong Women Challenge.
Yes, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, I'm from ActionAid Sweden. ActionAid exists in 45 countries around the world, working for women's rights. So that's what Strong Women Challenge is all about, like being strong together, standing up for women's rights together. So we really wanted to make a feeling of collective empowerment, like together we can make a change. So it was the first time ever we did like a peer-to-peer campaign like this. So it was exciting to see how it would go. Actually, this concept was already tried in ActionAid Australia. And last year also ActionAid Netherlands did this event, but in a little bit different form. So we were inspired by their campaigns, doing it in Sweden. But of course, we changed it a bit for our market. So actually what the campaign is all about is that you sign up for a 10-day workout challenge. And during these 10 days, you also, of course, then fundraise money. So every day our participants was sent an email with a workout video, but also information about ActionAid's work. And we always also sent a little example of something they could post to make their fundraising boost faster. Our main goal with this campaign was actually a lot about branding ourselves, because we haven't existed that long in Sweden. So we still need to work a lot on branding. And then we had a less big fundraising goal, but we almost achieved our goal in the fundraising part. So that was a nice thing, because we had a pretty low budget and very few people working on the campaign. So yeah, that was basically it. We worked together with a CrossFit ambassador. So our whole event was based on CrossFit workout challenges. But we also had 2 options. So you could also sign up for your own type of challenge. So you would start the fundraising the same way, but then you could just write the description like, yeah, I'm going to do yoga for 10 days, or I'm going to walk every day for 10 days, or I'm gonna dance every day for 10 days. So everyone did different stuff. Yeah, and then you could also sign up as a group. So there was some people signing up as teams, which we noticed was very popular. And we also had some companies participating as teams. So I don't know if I missed something out. You just ask me if there is something, or Jasper, if you think I missed something, just tell me.
I think at least it corresponds quite well to what I remember from it.
Yeah.
But no, yes, I think that was a good rundown, and I'll bring you in later.
Yeah.
So, but and to get a little bit more information as it sort of like relates to later subjects. But yeah, cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. Okay. And so, and in a minute, I'll sort of like introduce Anders also to give his let him describe MS Dinner and You Go Girl. And just I'll just do that now. Yes. And I'll just unmute that. Perfect.
Okay, Jesper, you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thanks. Okay. Basically, we try to think different on these two events because we are a small organization. And what we try to, instead of trying to have the audience as the whole country, we try to say, okay, what can we do for our audience, participants in our organizations? So we all know charity dinners, but here we only try to recruit within our own group. So what we did was we made a start kit for a charity dinner, and we tried to eliminate all excuses for not participating. So there were no costs for the host. All we asked for was commitment and their time, and it seems to be quite big success because we have tried to make all the steps for actually doing this dinner a success. So we made the plans, we made you could go out and shop by grocery list and how to do the dinner, and we tried to make everything as easy as possible. We only asked for the time. So it was another approach for having a charity dinner, a virtual event where you could participate for a whole month and still be a part of something bigger. So we ended up with this month having 2,500 people eating the same dinner, the same courses, and having big success where you actually in your own house as your own host. So even if you're disabled or a physical challenged, you could be a part of this because you don't have to walk around, you have to do a physical thing. No, we all eat. So this is something that everybody could relate to. I don't know if there's, that's the DNA of the charity dinner. You Go Girl, You Go Girl, we all know walks around, charity walks. So our goal was to, how can we make a walk that stands out like we couldn't do like the big walks do. So we have to do it unique. So first of all, it's free. It's all about socializing, make a great day for a great cause. But again, we recruited within our own groups, our own participants. We try to make them not participators, but ambassadors. That's very important. So we try to emphasize that ambassadors are the best way to have charity peer-to-peer. Yeah. So that's basically the DNA of the two events.
Cool. Thank you, Anders. Great. And yeah, again, I'll just again mute you and go on. And I'll bring in your comments on sort of like your descriptions on the events as we go along, because now we'll move on to sort of like going through both like downsides and benefits of this type of events. And I think your descriptions really made that part easy for me. So so we'll start with the downsides to doing virtual events compared to physical events. So the first one, that is, there's no ticketing income most often, as you said, Anders. It was free to participate in both events, and the same with Strong Women Challenge. It's free. Since you don't get that physical experience, it might also be quite difficult, even if you wanted to have ticketing income to do it. So, and if you're doing a physical event really well, you might actually earn an income on the ticketing income because you're actually making a profit on that. So that's why it could be a downside. It could also be a benefit if you are making a loss on that, which many charities are do when they do physical events, basically just because you will make up for it in fundraising, and therefore you want to have a lower income. So it could both be a benefit and a downside. I think the next one, and that's probably the one I would say is probably the biggest downside, that is you don't get the possibility to be when a participant crosses the goal line, basically. You won't be there to cheer them on and to be part of that experience in a very physical way, to give them a hug when they cross that finish line. And that is often something that will stand out as a big memory. So there will be work on this to give them something like this in just a virtual way. The recognition and the feelings and the support experience just virtually, and that is a big change in how we operate. The next two is something I would actually say that this is not something I've been seeing from the data we have on these type of events. It's something I've come to learn from UK and US, and I could see why this would actually happen. Right? You might have a lower average fundraise per fundraiser, and you might have a low activation rate of participants to fundraisers, and it does seem to make a lot of sense since you don't have the end event to discipline you in the same way. You could probably end up with a drop off there. Yes, and I will just there. Great. Okay, so if we're moving on to benefits, so I think Anders, you also mentioned this thing with even a disabled person will be able to access this event, and I think that's the first one, accessible to everyone, right? That not only in terms of physical accessibility, but it's also in terms of you are more free to design an event where you don't need to have several different distances, or you can actually vary it for every single individual so it fits that individual, and people are still doing the same thing. You don't need to have people doing a half marathon. You can have people doing a half marathon over 5 days, or you can so it's extremely flexible in that sense, and it can depend on from the home. You don't have geographical barriers. I think this is actually one of the bigger benefits, is that you can easily have event participants from the rural areas of your country. You don't need to focus on one specific city to recruit participants. Even though people do often travel for events, they don't travel far. So that is another big benefit. They are often less expensive to arrange and organize, and that means you have a lower financial risk. And that also means that with the lower risk, it's easier to just test and launch, and you could do rapid iterations, and you don't necessarily need to commit to a huge event up front, since virtual events can often be done with a much smaller team and at a way lower budget. And that means it's more okay to fail. It's less costly to fail, and when it's less costly to fail, you can try and test out more. Of new supporters, this will vary widely. I was actually a bit doubted if I should bring this onto this slide, because I think it will vary widely, and this is again just something we've been told by UK charities, especially that this actually brings in new supporters. But I think it depends a lot on what concept you end up with. It could just as well, just like MS Dinner, be something that's focused on your existing supporter base. It scales very easily. You can easily go from having 500 participants to 1,000 to 2,000 to 4,000. Way easier than with the physical events, and of course there will be marginal costs, but there are way less marginal costs here, and it works during a lockdown, which is the whole reason why we're doing this webinar right now. So definitely a benefit at the moment. Great. So I will move on to talk a bit about finding the concept and the campaign that's correct for you, right? Because there's no best concept here. All the examples I gave before, they probably worked because they were correct for that specific charity, and that means every single one needs to find your own concept. So how do you go do that? And so like before we go down that road, I would like to just recap at least what we believe is the reasons people actually end up fundraising. So why do people fundraise? Well, the sort of say the strongest motivator they can have is that they love you, and we're not just thinking about they care about the cause. They love you as an organization. They feel gratitude towards you as an organization, and you can probably not do anything wrong. Basically, they are your ambassadors, and if that's the case, they will most likely fundraise for you if you ask them. Second, they care about your cause, and so these are not necessarily loyal to you as an organization, but loyal to the cause, and that can be all different reasons to that. But they, of course, also have a strong motivation to go out fundraising, but they could also fundraise for another organization. Third, and this is I put this in the middle. It could probably be further up. It builds on their identity. I think this is probably one of the strongest reasons to fundraise. That is that you want to be seen as a person who care. Everyone wants to be liked, and we want to be liked for the right reasons. And one of the right reasons to be liked is that you're a generous being, and that means that is a strong motivator for fundraising, and that is that it builds upon your identity as a generous person who does something good. And the last two, could almost group them together, I think, is you fundraise because it's social and your friends and family are doing it and they ask you to join in. You might not care about the cause at all, you just want to be social. Fifth, it's a fun activity. I'm bored and I want to have fun. I am not necessarily caring about the cause, but I just find it fun. To some extent, that these two last motivators actually exist actually both for normal peer-to-peer fundraising, but also for virtual events, is a huge driver, because this is the reason that you can gain new supporters already just on the fundraising side. So I think it's a quite powerful motivator in this case. Of course, those that have the strongest motivator will often be those that fundraise the most. But hopefully those that join because it's a fun and social thing, or because it builds on their identity, they will learn so much about the cause that next year they will fundraise because they care about your cause or love you. So it's also a step ladder to move people up on, further up. Great. So yeah. Great. So now I'll go through sort of like a few things also around this, and that is more sort of like how to adjust the activity that you choose depending on whether you're targeting existing or new supporters. So if you're mainly targeting existing supporters, people who already have a relation, basically people who either love you or care about the cause and most likely are in your database, well, in that case, the activity should fit. It must fit your supporter base, because you cannot change the interest of your supporter base, but you can fit the event to that supporter base. The activity could also fit and explain your cause, but it doesn't need to. I think we had the previous example of cycling down dementia. That's a good example of an activity that does nothing to explain the cause. It could have been anything else. You could have been swimming, you could have been doing anything else, but that was basically an activity that's chosen because it's broad and it fits the supporter base, but does nothing to explain the cause. And yeah, again, it should probably also appeal broadly. You can't be too narrow in the activity. It can't be learn how to do step dancing or something like that, because most likely there's not that many potential step dancers in your database. So, and then, yeah, so, and another example, so I just give you the counter example of something that does explain a cause. One of the examples I didn't go too much in depth, but well, actually to some extent I think Strong Women Challenge is a good example on something that explains the cause. I don't hope I'm sort of like putting words in Linnea's mouth at the moment, but something that actually explains the cause by and therefore actually also serves as this branding exercise. Yes. And on the other hand, if you mainly target new supporters, well, then the activity should probably also be novel, exciting, because you do want people to join just because of the event. And it will help you if it actually also explains your cause. In some way, you had the Miles for Refugees, where you actually explain your cause by having people do the same distance as a refugee seeking shelter and safety. That's one example. And definitely, no matter what, in that case, there's a lot of work to be done when people sign up to explain the cause no matter what, and it's a help if the activity natively helps in that. On the plus side, if you target new supporters, you can also do a more narrow event, because you can target a more specific group, and that is often resulting in lower recruitment cost, but not necessarily. Great. So yeah, and no matter what, the activity is extremely important to sell. Even though a supporter love and care about you, they still need to buy into the activity. And people who don't do that and just want it to be fun and social, well, they definitely need to buy into the activity. And also just a note on the communication. Communication is so incredibly important, because you can have two identical events that could appeal to two completely different target groups just based on the communication and expectation setting. So a lot of the product and the value proposition can be defined only in the communication, which is one of the benefits of doing virtual events. Great. Okay. Now we'll move on to talk slight about the current situation, and sort of like I've had many discussions the last few days is on, for example, when does it make sense to launch new events in this environment, in during this crisis, and on one side, well, you don't want to be seen, or you probably genuinely don't want to try to use a tragedy like the current crisis for fundraising. On the other side, we do actually have a lot of people who are at home, who have an urgent need for socializing, who want to do something, who want to do something to help improve the situation of both themselves and everyone else, who wants to socialize, who want to be part of something bigger. And you can actually go out and help them by giving the opportunity to do that. So it's a fine line to tread on, and I don't have a clear answer to where you should go on that. But I definitely think it's worth keeping in mind that there is someone and there is a group of people who have this need for socializing, and that a virtual event could probably help them do that. And the socializing part of the virtual event will be extremely important. And also, it's very much different, right? I'm in the group of people of a family where we're both trying to work from home full time, as good as we can, and also have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old running around, which is very difficult. I have never had less time in my life than I have right now. On the other hand, I have friends who are working professionals without kids, who are sharing what Netflix series they want to binge watch, right? And that's an example of probably the person to target, not me, basically. So yeah, there's definitely something there. On the same note, there's also just a lot of existing events the coming month that needs to be done, that needs to be sort of rethought to some extent. You probably want to avoid canceling. And I know Anders and MS Anders have a running event this month, MS Run, that will be postponed, but still they will be out running this weekend, and keeping engagement high among the participants to have them show that they are still there, they are still doing something around sclerosis, but it has nothing to do with fundraising. You Go Girl is also being postponed and being thought into how can this be potentially, how can this be made into a month-long event in June that better fits a situation where we might not be able to meet up in large groups. Yes. So yeah. Great. Okay. So I will move on from the current situation and just on to like getting started on, hopefully start on setting up some virtual events. And I think the first one, this is actually quite remarkable. I think 3 new event ideas from concept to execution in just 5 days. That is probably optimistic, but I really think there is something around virtual events that makes this possible, that we can go out and really test out new concepts very fast. And basically, and an input to how to do that is basically just to come up with a concept, definition of success, and launching a test, and doesn't need to be more than a landing page that explains it. You can always set up the actual event. That is the most costly, probably the more costly part of it, and the event communication afterwards when you have found what concept that actually works. And there is a caveat to this, right? That is, if you only have a database of 300 existing supporters, you should probably not do that. You should probably ask people instead what they want to do. So this works if you're either attacking new supporters or if you have a lot of existing supporters where you can actually afford to test a few concepts out on. So just a note on that. Great. Okay. And I'll move on to sort of like just a few notes on technology before we go on to recruitment. So yeah, and so this is around the technology stuff, and this is basically us at Better Now who will most likely help you with that. And we always like it when we come with a share one page so we can help you actually find the best setup. But we have 4 things that we would love to go through. And the first one is the sign up. And getting people to sign up in this, especially in this case, just needs to be super easy. And it can be done by you signing up basically just by creating a fundraiser. That also makes sure that you don't have a drop off there, or you should probably have the fundraiser created, automated, and automatically when they sign up. We usually do this, for example, with our Zapier integration that's actually in use on some of Anders' event, I know, and some other things. And actually, I think I'll unmute Anders here. So Anders,
yeah,
I would love to get your input on the expectation setting doing a sign up, because I know you're doing this quite well. when you explain people what the event is about and that fundraising is expected, and also for goal setting for the fundraiser. Maybe, for example, just how you actually use that with MS Dinner with people setting goals as a way of committing to the event.
Well, based on our learnings is we try to say, first of all, we make the events free. Secondly, we say we don't give them a target. We actually don't give them a target, because when we give them a target, we find that people stop, or most likely wants to stop when they reach their target. So therefore, and thirdly, we would like to engage everyone. So if you have a target on your fundraising activity, some people might not participate. So we rather go for a lot of participators who will become ambassador. And when they try the event and try to make the first charity and try to reach out for their network and actually have a success in building up a charity, they will continue that process and have success on built on success, and therefore the amount of fundraising will raise way higher than a specific target. So our philosophy is we don't have a target because it works better for us. It's also a cultural thing, but especially for our events, we don't set a target, but we do say you have all this event, this start kit or whatever for free, and therefore we encourage you to do the best you can. That's all we ask for. Whatever you can, just do it. And on top of that, we try to give them some encouragement to, hey, you can try this. Have you tried this? Or just like you do on Better Now as well, you also have these guidelines how to improve your charity. Jesper?
Thanks. I just need to unmute myself. So yeah, and another thing, at least I don't know if you could call it a hack, but at least since it is a free sign up, right? You just sign up, and it's quite easy to sign up. But Anders, I know you have basically like a small checkbox on your sign up that basically says, yes, I have read and understood the concept of this event.
Yeah.
And that basically, and in there it says, yeah, we're getting this event for free, but also I will work at my best to fundraise.
Yeah.
And I think that. Yeah.
And another thing is we don't have a sign up on Better Now because we want the traffic to our pages, so we can try to explain as much as possible. So therefore, we work together on this, and we made a sign up where it's very easy to sign up, and all the data are transferred automatically to Better Now, so they don't have to sign up twice. A big improvement.
Yeah, definitely. Great. Yeah, and thanks. So yeah, I'll move on.
Yeah.
Thanks. So yeah, and well, as Anna said, definitely a big improvement on that one. Gather another one, and I think this is a tip I have seen somewhere, that is gather information on the motivation. Why are you fundraising? Because that will make it possible for you to actually make a more granular communication when you do the engagement that we won't talk that much about today. Okay, I'll move on as time is scarce. So teams, Linnea already mentioned this. Teams are often a quite important, is almost, I would call it, essential element to this. It makes it more social because you tap into some existing social networks. It adds gamification through leaderboards, and that helps on the engagement and the results. And then it enables recruitment, right? So if you can actually get a team, an individual to become a team leader and invite their friends or families or colleagues, you have not just one, but maybe 20 new team members. And that's a good way to recruit. It's basically word of mouth. Another area I would like to mention is pledge fundraising, or sponsored fundraisers, as we call it in Better Now. It's basically where you pledge to give a certain donation for each, as the fundraiser does the activity, right? It could be 10 kroners or €1 per kilometer they run bike, or days they go without chocolate or whatever. It basically connects. It makes a more tight connection between the activity and the donations. But I think one caveat here is that it does also become more complex to communicate. So there's always a downside to everything, right? Great. Then the next one, and that's the stewardship. That's basically the participant engagement that we won't cover. But it is crucial. It is very much crucial. And I think, and especially because it's a virtual event, there is a lot of work to be done on making sure that the participants feel recognized, and that they know the matter, that they are a very important person when they are doing the event, even though that you actually don't meet the person in a physical meet space. So very important, and more so than on a normal event. And it could be everything from automated emails to SMS communication, social media, newsletter, and probably everything there. Great. Okay, I'll move on to recruitment. And I think before I move on to recruitment, I would like to give the word to Linnea, because I would love to hear your strategy for recruiting participants with Strong Women Challenge, and where you got the most participant from, and basically how you approach this.
Yeah. Yeah, so how we did it was that we used mostly Facebook and Instagram with marketing videos. We had 4 different marketing videos. One that more like explained why they should do this and like create this engagement into the different matters. But then we also had some videos that more just explained like what is actually the challenge. So then we did like 10 days marketing period where we targeted many people, like both people who already follow us and who already like bought stuff from us or are monthly donors, but also new target groups. So this was a nice thing, even though not everyone signed up. We got a lot of new like followers, and like we reached to a completely new target group during this campaign period. So in a branding perspective, it was very like successful. But we are going to do the Strong Women Challenge again this year. So now we're going to have a longer marketing period, because I think that would be a big help, and also to put more money into marketing, because we had a very small budget for our Strong Women Challenge last year. So I think most of our participants came from Facebook and Instagram, but then we also had, of course, some of our past, like people who already are our monthly donors and so on. But it's cool, like you mentioned about teams before. It's like we, for example, had one company who signed up that never have heard about us before, and they actually signed up as a team, and they raised together 3,000 euros, which was like, thank you, we don't know you, this is great, like, and how you can create this relationship with just completely new target groups. So yeah, interesting. But we're gonna do a bigger marketing this time. Yeah, something else, Jasper? Now we don't hear you. Hello. Jasper, you're on mute.
Unmute.
Now we hear you. Now we hear you.
Yes, perfect.
Sorry.
Thank you, Linnea. I unmuted myself. I muted myself and didn't unmute you. Great. Okay. So for that one. So I'll just start over on the recruitment. And that is, so yeah, on social proof. Basically, I'm a strong proponent on the social proof part, and getting testimonials from previous participants. And if you don't have previous participants, you can have them from people who fundraised for you years ago, or it could be an old event last year that it's not actually the same event, but just having someone say, I love to fundraise for charity X and I would do it again. It was a great experience. That helps, because no one likes to be the first or even the second. And also make sure that there's no empty site, right? Make sure there are fundraisers from day one. And it doesn't matter if you have to do them yourself, or if you have to get board members or ambassadors or volunteers or anyone. Just make sure that there are fundraisers from day one. Next one is, well, this is very basically, I guess it's marketing 101, and I shouldn't be telling you this, but everyone needs multiple touch points before signing up. Very few will just hear about it and just sign up on the spot. They will probably need to hear about it several times. So it won't be enough just to tell people about it once in a newsletter. You will most likely need to make a good segment of your supporters you think will be most likely to join, and then send a 3-email journey with telling them about the event and handling hesitations and getting them to sign up. Low barriers to entry. No sign-up fee, easy sign-up, clear hesitation handling. That's a great way to get more sign-ups. Continued, integrate to existing programs. Do you have an ambassador programs? Well, there's an obvious path to getting some of the first fundraisers. Do you have local chapters? Do you have schools, volunteer groups? Are you active in among churches? There's a lot of different areas where you could go out to use these existing networks to recruit from. Obvious also go through old fundraisers and event participants. If they have fundraised before, they are definitely more likely to fundraise again than a completely new a person who haven't fundraised ever before. Team recruitment, we definitely covered that one. And the last one is also, as Linnea said, corporate partnerships. And that was even the new corporate partner, but especially with existing corporate partners, that will enable you to recruit among employees, or maybe from the customer base, if that is fitting, though most often it will be the employees. And the last two, social media ads, as Linnea and ActionAid did, that especially is when you want new participants, right? When someone you haven't worked with before, and word of mouth. And basically, a virtual event actually lets you have event participants during the event for a period, and then people can join later in the same period. And that means, since people, when they fundraise, they do share it on social media, that actually lets people share it in the first period of the campaign and have people join later. I think that was also with Strong Women Challenge, there was this 10-day period where people could start the campaign and start the challenge, and they were sharing it on social media, which resulted in more people signing up during the period. So yeah, but of course the concept should allow it. So yeah, and we are at the end, and quite amazingly on time. So now it's time mainly for questions. And so yeah, please do send in your questions if you have any. I can see people have started going to leave, but if anyone have any questions, do let me know. Just put it in the Q&A panel, or raise your hand. There's this weird function where you can raise your hand, and you can also just be put on unmute and get the mic, so to say. Okay, not many questions. Okay, so in the meantime, Anders, yeah. I would like to ask you a question then. And I would like to ask if you have experienced recruitment, how recruitment have sort of like been getting more difficult or easier over the years. You've been doing this for quite some time and have multiple events. And also, how many of the participants do you get from previous events, and how many are new?
Yeah, good question, Jesper. The thing is, we have two-way strategy. We have some events who apply to all sports segments. So if you're into sports, extreme sports, that we have a challenge for you. So we try not to recruit in our own supporter base. And then we have this new events like Charity Dinner, who only recruits within our supporter base. The philosophy is we try to merge these things. So whenever they have a good experience in our events, they will likely come back and doing another event, whether it's extreme sport challenge or walk, or so we do have this. Once they get into our mail program or sign up newsletter, we do see them again. So we try to make the first impression last. So the touch point has to be that they have so good experience during events that they will come back, maybe not in the same event, but in another event. So it's quite important to think how you can do this event differently than all other events out there on the market. That's our DNA.
Can I just ask you about the dinner? Like, do you have that in a specific period, or is that something ongoing all the time that people can do this dinner?
No. We do have a only for a month, because we believe that communication about this dinner has to be just like a campaign. So we want to say a lot of things during the year and try to marketing other things as well. So that's why dinner it's quite good example, because we put it in February, because normally you can't do anything in February.
Yeah.
So this is a low income for events. So that's why we try to let's make an event we can actually do when there's no other competitors. So only for a focus month. Instead, we can do all our platforms all about the dinner. So it's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, it sounds interesting.
We actually got a question, and that is from Annelie Nilsson, who asked if how do you recommend to award and engage the ones who participate to continue? Any good advice? Well, I will just put in a small note, and then I'll see if I could definitely imagine you have something to say too. Gamification. Well, I would say recognition of effort is of the utmost importance, and it is recognition on a very personal level, right? If anyone actually have the resources to do it, the best thing you could do would be to reach out to them very personally, right? It could be SMS, it could be a call, it could be at least an email, or at least some kind of like public recognition. It both creates commitment and engagement.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that ActionAid Australia and Netherlands, for example, they also had company collaborations so that you could have different like things. If you managed to reach a specific goal, like you would get a goodie bag, or so we're gonna try this this year for us. But otherwise, we also did like the chat on Better Now, like all the time, texting people there and like.
Yeah.
Oh, and Anders, I know you also do have T-shirts you get at certain levels, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, incentives.
Incentives.
Yeah. We do. For our bike events, it's free, but we still, if you raise, I think it's 500 euros, you do get a bike shirt.
Yeah, and I think this is actually pretty common. Setup for many virtual events. That there's actually also some, even for virtual events, there's a physical objects you can actually get by reaching certain milestones.
Yeah, that's another point about virtual events. It doesn't have to be physical, no, but you can send out a start kit, whatever it is. So it can be physical in the sense of you actually getting something to have your event going. Again, dinner, we had the books, what do you call it, menu cards and all that. It was shipped to you, so you actually get a physical item to start off your event. So you feel that you are in an event, not just a virtual thing where you have to do everything yourself.
Yeah. I think that is definitely good advice. Cool. Okay, it doesn't seem there's any other questions. There's still time if anyone wants to put in a question. And else, I see half of our attendees have left, so I think this is probably a good time to stop this webinar. And I'll just finish by saying it will be recorded. I think I actually forgot to say that in the start, and will be sent out after I do a quick quick edit, so we get out all the start and intro. But yeah, besides that, that's about it. And I will just a big thank you to Anders and Linnea for being part of it and sharing. I'm so happy for that. I think that was.
You're welcome.
Cool. Great. I'll just say, well, thank you, and hope to see you at another webinar. Cool. Bye.
Bye.